oh my goodness, like 80% of my closet is made of these fibers that you're telling me are toxic. And we also do know that Lululemon leggings have forever chemicals, PFAS, in the crotch. Not only are you putting extremely toxic chemicals right near your genitals and your reproductive organs, you're covering yourself in microplastics that are getting into your bloodstream. In a world obsessed with convenience and quick fixes, I'm approaching wellness differently. After healing from chronic illness by overhauling my entire life, I'm now on a mission to help women like me to thrive and not just survive. I'm Kristen, and you're listening to the OrganiMama Podcast. Ladies, real quick question. Have you ever done a full face of makeup and then thought, wait, is this stuff actually okay to be on my skin? Because it turns out that long-lasting makeup sometimes just means it won't come off, ever, including the chemicals. That's why I love Crunchy makeup. It's clean, toxin-free, high-performance makeup that actually works. Like, we're talking legit coverage, perfect blending, and skin that doesn't feel like it's suffocating. So if you want to try makeup that looks good and aligns with your crunchy but realistic lifestyle, check the show notes, click the link, and try Crunchy. New customers can use code ADVOCATE15 for 15% off their first order of $50 or more. Same glow, way less side-eye from your nervous system. Hello. Welcome back to the OrganiMama Podcast. Today we're talking about all things clothing. Now, I'll be honest, I know that this topic is a little bit tough for some of you to hear because you might be like super crunchy in a lot of ways, but you are hanging on to your Lululemon leggings for dear freaking life. And girl, I get it, but let's talk about it, okay? So first of all, why should you care about what material your clothes are made of? There's two main factors, truly. One is your personal health. So fibers that are made from petroleum, which is a crude oil, this is going to be your polyester, your nylon, your spandex, your elastane. These are generally speaking going to always be made from petroleum, which is a very toxic crude oil. And these fibers, specifically the ones I mentioned, polyester, nylon, elastane, spandex, these are made from plastic. So the little fiber strings, the threads that make up these fabrics are plastic threads. So what does plastic create that is harmful? Well, a lot of things, but in clothing particularly, it's microplastics. So even though you can't see them, your polyester, your nylon, your spandex clothes are continually shedding microplastics kind of everywhere. When you sit down, they're shedding them onto your couch. When you lay down, they're shedding them into your bed. And when you wear them, especially if it's workout clothes and you're sweating, these microplastics are absorbing into your skin, getting into your bloodstream, and ending up in your body. And they can bioaccumulate. We know this. They can end up in the brain, they can end up in our cells, and they wreak a ton of havoc on the human body. There's just a plethora of studies out there showing the harms of microplastics. They can cause infertility. They can cause chronic illness. They can cause changes to your organs. They can harm your brain. So it is really important when you can to reduce your exposure to microplastics. But here's the problem. The majority of clothes out there seem like they're made of polyester and spandex and nylon, especially good workout clothes. Am I right? And it's tough. Like if you're looking at your closet right now being like, I have no idea what my clothes are made of. First of all, go look at the labels, go see on the tag, what is the fabric makeup? It might say 70% polyester, 30% cotton, or it might say 100% polyester, or it might say 100% acrylic. Acrylic is also plastic. That's usually the fabric or the fiber they're using for knits. So yarn is often made of acrylic, which is plastic, especially for like your sweaters and things like that. So if you start looking through your closet, you're going to notice there's probably a lot of polyester. There's probably a good amount of spandex in your workout clothes and polyester. You're going to have these blends where it's like some cotton and also some polyester. You're going to notice acrylic in your sweaters, and that might feel really overwhelming of like, oh my goodness, like 80% of my closet is made of these fibers that you're telling me are toxic. Well, I don't want you to go and just throw everything out overnight, okay? I don't want you to do that. That is not economical by any means. We're not going to be going and just blowing all of our budget and like needing to go through divorce because of financial struggles from updating our wardrobe to non-toxic fibers. Please do not go there. But what I do want you to think about is every time you go out from now on to buy new clothes, look at the fabric makeup and choose something that is better than what you've currently got, okay? And slowly, as you need to start replacing your clothes, if things get holes in them, if you just don't wear them anymore, replace them with things that are natural fibers. Now, a good question that is asked of me commonly is, well, what do I do with the stuff that I currently have that is made from toxic fibers? And this is where the second factor of why you want to avoid plastic fabric comes into play. It is environmental impact, right? So there's the health impact for ourselves of like, these are causing exposure to plasticizers and microplastics in the bloodstream. Yes. There's also an environmental impact. We know that plastic does not biodegrade. It does not break down. So every polyester piece of clothing, unless it's recycled into more polyester, which is also kind of a problematic system, it's never going to break down. It is just going to exist as plastic forever. And so when you just like throw clothes away and they go sit in a landfill, that's dumping those toxic chemicals right into our earth, which means it's getting into our soil, it's getting into our food, it's getting into our animals. That's not ideal. And I could go on a whole tangent about how literally every disposable diaper that's ever been made since like the 1960s is still sitting in a landfill, as well as every plastic toothbrush. But plastic is problematic for the environment for a variety of reasons. One is being that stuff is sitting in landfills, just dumping plasticizers and BPA and phthalates and microplastics into the ground, which is why I also don't recommend living near a landfill. Second, and the other part of that from an environmental standpoint is the actual process of creating these fabrics like polyester and nylon and spandex and acrylic is they require so many toxic chemicals to produce. And just the extraction of petroleum, the creation of petroleum is so harmful for our planet. And then you think about all of the people that are part of the crude oil creation process that are getting exposed to these chemicals every single day. It's causing all kinds of toxic health problems. It's a huge issue. And then you have all of this off-gassing that is also going beyond just like people that are working on the crude oils. It's expanding to the areas around them, causing all of these volatile organic compounds to go in the air and impact the communities around where these crude oils are being produced. And then you take it a step further to these factories where they're actually making polyester fabric, and you have all of these factory workers that most of the time are being treated extremely unethically, being way underpaid in these third world countries, and they are being exposed to all of these toxic gases and toxic fabrics every single day. It is a problem. So when you as a consumer are spending $90 on a pair of Lululemon leggings that feel buttery and soft and are nice for your yoga class, you have to think beyond just what can I get out of it? You actually have to think, where did these come from? What kind of person was sewing these? In what kind of environment? And where did this fabric come from? And how did that impact the earth? And then you take all of that heaviness and then you think, well, how is this actually going to impact me? And we also do know that Lululemon leggings have forever chemicals, PFAS, in the crotch. So not only are you putting extremely toxic chemicals right near your genitals and your reproductive organs, you're covering yourself in microplastics that are getting into your bloodstream. Girl, the Lululemons are just not worth it. I hate to break it to you. They're just not. So what should you be choosing instead? Well, here's what you should not be choosing instead that a lot of people want you to think you should be choosing is bamboo. Bamboo fabric is not non-toxic. Bamboo fabric is actually viscose, okay? And it's also other nicknames for bamboo fabrics are going to be rayon, tencel. These are all like marketed as being like non-toxic, but what they actually are is they're derivatives of bamboo. Now, bamboo itself is a natural thing, right? It's a plant. But what happens in order to turn bamboo into fabric is this really intense chemical process. Think about bamboo, like it's a tree plant. I actually don't know if it's a tree or a plant, but it's like fibrous. It's like woody. So how do you turn that into soft fabric? Well, it's a huge chemical process that requires some very, very toxic chemicals. So again, you're running into this issue of like, who's in the factory when they're making these fabrics and how are they being impacted and how are they being treated and how are they being paid? And then you end up with this semi-synthetic, that like it's derived from the bamboo plant, but it's not actually just like made of bamboo. Like there's all these additives, there's all of these things that are done to it. It has to go through this huge chemical process to be turned into fabric. And then you have this fabric that's pretty soft, right? And people hype it up because like, oh, it's so soft. It's made from non-toxic bamboo. It's not non-toxic. It might be soft, but it's not non-toxic, and it's also not made to last. Bamboo fabric, tencel, rayon, lyocell, it's all names of the same thing, which is this bamboo fabric. It will not last. It will pill, it will shred, it will rip. It is not meant to last. So please do not buy into the hype about bamboo fabric. I get very worked up about this. What should you be buying? Okay. The best fabrics out there, there's really 4 of them. There's cotton. Now, cotton is the world's dirtiest crop, if you did not know, meaning most heavily sprayed with pesticides. Is this a problem when it comes to the actual fabric you're putting on your body? If you're buying something that's 100% cotton, should you be worried about pesticide exposure, like making you sick? Not really. A lot of it has already been removed by that point. But this is more of a planet ethical reason to avoid conventional cotton, because the more you buy 100% cotton that's not organic cotton, the higher the demand is for just regular cotton to be produced. And then the more pesticides they're spraying on those fields, which, as we know, causes a problem for the soil and for the surrounding, people who live around cotton mills and cotton farms. So 100% cotton still definitely is better than anything made of plastic. But if you can afford organic cotton, that is going to be the best thing. Now, there's no really perfect solution to the best type of fabric when it comes to environmental impact, because cotton, organic cotton, and regular cotton still take a lot of water to produce. But if you think about cotton fabric, it really just is the actual plant that's been cleaned, stretched, and turned into thread. Very different than quote unquote bamboo fabric. Cotton fabric is just the cotton plant that's been cleaned, stretched, combed, turned into thread. It's a very simple process. There's not chemicals added to it. And then you have wool, which is made from sheep fur. And this can be a really good option if it's done ethically. Unfortunately, there are a lot of wool producers and sheep wool farms around the world that treat the sheep horribly. So you want to be looking to see where is your wool being sourced from. And a lot of times wool will be sprayed after it's been processed off the sheep. It will be sprayed with pesticides to try and kill any like bugs or mites that were living on the sheep's skin environment. So you want to be looking for an organic, ethical wool. That's going to be your best option. But again, any type of wool is going to be better than plastic. But I don't want sheep to be like brutally harmed in the process of making my clothing. So I do like to think about that as well. Then you have linen. Linen is very, very similar to cotton in that it's an actual plant. It's a soft plant that can very easily be turned into soft fabric. And you know the linen feel. It's a little bit more rough, a little bit more like starchy feeling than cotton, but that's a really great option as well. And then another good option most of the time is going to be hemp. Hemp is processed similarly to bamboo, but it's often done differently. So there are some hemp clothing brands that are sourcing their hemp fabric from a place that's using almost the same type of system as bamboo fabrics. So not all hemp fabrics are created equal, but there are certain brands of hemp fabric that are using a different type of process that doesn't actually use toxic chemicals or toxic byproducts at all. It can be hard to know where to shop for these things, which is why I created a guide called OrganiWear that covers literally all this information plus a lot more on what types of fabrics to avoid. I go beyond just plastic fabrics. I'm also talking about bamboo and then some other things as well, like what to consider when it comes to leather and neoprene and things like that. I'm also talking through like what materials are best and why. So diving even deeper into what I just shared with you about like cotton and wool and all of that stuff. But then I give you like dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of recommended brands for clothing for women, men, and children. Because a lot of times we hear like, oh, here's non-toxic fiber clothes for women. But then we're like, well, what about our men? What kind of underwear should they be wearing? What kind of socks should I buy for my husband? Or what about my kids? Where should I look for kids' clothes that are non-toxic? I have all of that linked in OrganiWear, as well as shoes and accessories, because this is something that we forget about often is our shoes and our accessories matter too. Like, what kind of purse are you carrying? What is it made out of? What kind of shoes are you wearing on your feet? And one of the most important factors to me when it comes to shoes is, are they supporting my natural foot shape? So you might have heard of barefoot shoes before. This is the type of shoe that I love the most. And I will say that I was very hesitant to jump on board with barefoot shoes because I initially just thought they looked ugly. We've been conditioned to think that pointed toes on shoes are attractive. Like when you think about high heels, it's those like super pointy toes that are like, oh my gosh, those high heels are so cute. You know what? Those are absolutely terrible for your whole body. They're so bad for your toes. They're so bad for your feet. They're so bad for your ankles, so bad for your calves, so bad for your hips. High heels are not it, sis. Coming from someone who used to like them a lot. So when I'm shopping for shoes for myself, for my husband, for my kids, the first thing I'm always looking for is a wide toe box to actually fit the shape of a human foot. And then I'm also looking for a barefoot style shoe that is going to give me the feel of like actually walking on the ground so that my foot is getting those sensations, because that's really what our feet are designed to be doing, is walking and feeling the ground. When we have like 2-inch padding between the ground and our foot, that's not very natural. So I love wide toe box, barefoot style shoes. And I have linked pretty much shoes of every category: slippers, dress shoes, sandals, sneakers, anything that you could possibly want. I pretty much have all of that linked in my guide. So be sure to go check that out if you're like, hey, I definitely need to know where to shop for clothes for myself, for my hubby, for my kids. I have no idea what shoes to be looking for, and I don't even freaking know how to choose a non-toxic purse. I got you. We've got non-toxic belts. We've got non-toxic scarves and hats. We've got non-toxic backpacks. Everything is in there in OrganiWear. So I will make sure and drop the link in the show notes. I've included a discount code that is just for podcast listeners. So be sure to add that on to your order to get a discount. And I hope this has been helpful for you as you think about choosing non-toxic fibers in a world that is full of convenience and plastic and a lot of toxicity. So all that being said, we will catch you next time on the OrganiMama Podcast. Thanks so much for joining today. Stay non-toxic. And as always, do your best and let go of the rest. If you're trying to be more low tox, but suddenly realize your clothes, your kids' clothes, and your pajamas might be part of the problem, I got you, girl. Researching low tox fashion is shockingly complicated, so I did the work for you and created OrganiWear, a guide to safer clothing brands for the entire family. No guessing, no greenwashing, just brands I've already vetted so you can shop and move on with your life. Go down to the show notes and grab OrganiWear because we deserve clothes that feel good and don't stress out our bodies. Podcast listeners can get 20% off with code PODCAST.